And finally, for the press conference, we're going to have my brother, Reese Chenault. Reese has spent almost 12 years as a union and community organizer. Currently, Reese is a national coordinator for the U.S. Labor Against the War. And Reese was also recently a community organizer with One DC, a nonprofit that seeks to exercise political strength to create and preserve racial and economic equity in DC.
How y'all doing? All right. I'm gonna do this a little different. I'm gonna tell this story from two perspectives. Diraksha, I knew that was coming. U.S. law and my life to illustrate the parallels between us and where our roads have diverged. So U.S. law began in 2003, and it did a lot of good work. AFL-CIO passed a resolution in 2005 coming out against the Iraq War. Now, I know resolution doesn't sound that great, but the reality is that for a long time, the AFL-CIO was known as the AFL-CIA because of the way that they compromised themselves and often cooperated with the federal government to take down leadership in other countries and do other really nasty things. And that legacy followed them. So taking the step to actually come out against U.S. foreign policy together in a convention was a pretty big deal. At that time, I was at a college in Virginia, an HBCU called Virginia State University, and I didn't know U.S. law yet. That's where I met my friend Dakari, who's actually the reason I'm up on this stage today. We became friends. He supported me as I grew into activism and introduced me to the reality of the divide between my burgeoning political message and his life. He did a lot to educate me, and he didn't have to do that. At that point, U.S. law and I probably crossed paths at some rallies and some actions. But for the most part, we still didn't really know each other. Dakari explained that he felt that if we were friends, he should probably shoot straight with me one day. And he sat me down and he said, the marches we go to are actually pretty silly, he thought. In fact, he told me that while he was certainly opposed to war in all forms and had his own thoughts about politics, he thought that we were in a time of criminal rulers of a corrupt system. But he couldn't go to this stuff anymore with me, and I wasn't that surprised, to be honest with you. I saw the look of consternation on his face as protesters from the Black Bloc would move through the crowd and occasionally engage the police in a way that he knew he never could. And I also saw the sadness when he looked for other students from HBCUs and could not find them. Often, we were black dots in a sea of white faces. It prompted me to ask the question, which is now my big question that I carry with me for the rest of my life, which is, what in your life experience is missing from my political analysis? Dakari and I worked together, Dakari and I worked together and we reached some new people because I changed the way that I viewed my relationship with those people. They were not fuel for my activist fire, they were my comrades that I was walking with, and I had to take their experiences to define my view of what it meant for justice for all of us, not just my own political analysis for myself. I started union organizing the same year that U.S. law was founded in 2003. Dakari died that same year by himself in a Baltimore alley, and his diploma was given to his parents posthumously, as he was a semester away from graduating college. "13 years later, we're at war all over the place, and for most of my adult life, we've been in an armed conflict. U.S. law saw the need to change the way it engaged with labor and foreign policy, and also a need for changes internally. Some of y'all in the room might know Michael Eisenscher. He'd been working there for 13 years, but he decided he wanted to retire. And after a long search, they hired me, which I am mystified about every day. I was hired to move things in a different direction and acknowledge this new perspective. And in April, we held our convening where we provided labor leaders of a snapshot where organized labor and our bloodthirsty foreign policy still intersect to this day. We had some really hard discussions, but we walked away facing the reality that labor and the anti-war movement had a lot in common. Both lily white and both with an aging constituency that was looking for new people. To fight, we needed to grow, and we needed to ask my question for D, my big question, which is what in your life experience is missing from my analysis? Focus developed on two things within that convening: internally challenging the notion of solidarity, by having some tough conversations with union members who work in the military industrial complex. We also had to externally challenge the notion of solidarity by showing up to fight Islamophobia within our unions, because as this election clearly shows, we got a lot of work to do. We had to become better listeners so we could be better organizers and leaders. Foreign policy can seem really esoteric and far away, and peace can seem like this work of disconnected hippies from a bygone era. We struggle to get people in the door, I think, because we're focusing on the wrong thing. I work to engage union members in this critical time of Islamophobia and Trump and climate catastrophe and endless war and abysmal wages. I know it's not disinterest or a lack of attention that I face. The attacks are coming from everywhere, and my people just struggle under the weight. Getting people in the door requires that I widen the doorway, not simply try to shove people through my narrow vision of what it means to do anti-militarism work. And this is my open challenge to every person in this room. I think about Dee all the time. He died my best teacher. And I now have the gift of a beautiful son, Justice, and he's 2. And I work to free his life of endless war. And so I challenge you to think about the question that I put before you and wonder what this movement will be, because I think we should be a movement that chases Dee's powerful spirit. Thank you.